See, we're at the Irish Gypsy.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank
Yeah,
you for having us,
yeah.
as always.
This is so exciting. I'm telling you because I couldn't wait to have you back.
Oh,
Since
thank
the
you.
last time we had you, and you had a little fight in between.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that in a little bit. We're gonna have Evan for the next 45 minutes an hour. I'm gonna step away about halfway through and let Clemson John get some questions in for you. We only have enough space for three of us, so
Sounds
we're
good.
gonna make do with it. Mike,
Beauty.
I want to start with you a little bit with your handicapping Saturday night. I want to
Yep.
get you guys to go over the card from this past Saturday night, and then
Yep.
we'll get into Mike. We'll get into Evan's fight after we talk about
Oh,
that.
you know what? You surprised me a little bit. Give me 1 second while I
Yeah.
pull up what the picks were.
Mike,
Um,
by the way, Evan, Mike is spot on.
Oh yeah,
He's got his game
He's
down.
very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He's
I
super
try.
knowledgeable.
I don't know how we found him, but I do know how we found him. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying it was like you talk about a diamond in the rough
No,
when it comes to
he's
his
spot
knowledge.
on.
Yeah.
He's very accurate. He knows what he's talking about. I could tell last time we were here talking about the fights and everything. I was like, man, this guy's educated. He knows his stuff for sure.
I'm
So
I'm a little deep in the game. I like to think
yeah.
I'm a little bit deep in the game, but um, one thing that I'm not super into, but I'm working on it, Evan, and I got to be careful. But the whole gambling side of things, I'm not traditionally a betting man, but they're having their influence on me one way or the other.
Well, I want to tell you this. He was on last week with us, and he says I got to get my bets in, and my eyes just lit up, and I saw him at the kiosk putting a little wager
That's
in. I
right,
think
that's
we
right.
got him.
First
Money,
time,
Money Micah.
first time.
Money
Yeah,
Micah.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Money Micah.
I threw in a big parlay. Careful with that. That's not those two words do not typically go together. But it's been fun. I mean, it's for me. The enjoyment is just evaluating the different fighters, the different
Yeah.
styles. As you know, styles make fights, and as a result, it also makes betting lines. And so it's been fun for me to kind of put on my creative hat and think through analytically what the different types of ways in which you can gamble. And I'm really learning more about the gambling side of things. Um, the fight the fight component itself is just for me. It's always been a huge interest, a huge fascination, and I love it. So mostly because we get to sit down and hang out with folks like yourself. So
Yeah,
thank you for coming.
absolutely. I'll tell you a little
Thank
bit
you.
about the gambling side of things. A lot of all these major sports. I mean, if gambling didn't exist, I don't know. I'm not saying it wouldn't be popular, but the gambling side adds to
For
the
sure.
popularity of things. And for me, my whole life, a little money on a sport, whatever it is, it makes me more interested in it.
Absolutely.
But that's me, right? And obviously, they build these big casinos and big sports books for a reason. I'm not the only one that has that feeling,
Yep.
right?
He loves that sweat.
I do.
He loves that
I
sweat.
think you're starting to like the sweat.
I'm sure.
I'm
yeah,
not gonna
sure
lie.
It definitely builds some interest and gets you a little bit more invested, a little bit more
Well,
involved.
especially when you do some sort of parlay that it's like, I think it was I bet $20 to win like $2,000.
Yeah.
So when it throws stuff like that, you're like, okay. Now, granted, it did not hit.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Thank you, Valentina Shevchenko. She was the one who threw me off.
Really?
Well,
That's
who
good.
would have bet against her,
I was
right?
gonna say that was almost like probably a guaranteed.
And that was so Dave, let's talk about that. A minus 800
Okay.
Yeah.
losing the fight.
Alexa Grasso.
Alexa Grasso. And I don't know if you watched, but Valentina winning the fight, she throws a spinning back elbow,
Yep.
gets caught.
Spinning back kick, I believe.
Was it a back kick?
Yeah. You know what's funny is because me and some of my buddies were just talking about they're like, man, I feel like I was just watching with a group of my friends, and none of them are fighters; they're just fans. But they were like, "Man, I feel like that spinning back kick, you could generate so much power and torque. Like why don't more people throw that?" And literally, like a fight or two later, Valentina throws it and gives up position because it gave up her back.
Yep.
And I was like, that is why that doesn't happen as much because it's a higher risk technique. You're risking anytime you're turning your back to your opponent, even if it's for a quick second, it's
very
high
dangerous.
risk. Yeah.
Very dangerous, and credit to Grasso. I mean, she capitalized on the
absolutely.
situation.
Yeah,
I mean, she was in a tough
beautifully.
spot. The fight wasn't looking great for her. She gets one opportunity, and credit for her to close out the night. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah,
boom, boom,
absolutely.
and that's it. All of a sudden, she's champion and really takes down, I think, one of the best female fighters in probably all of UFC
Dude, if
history.
not the best.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's Amanda Nunes as I think she's highly touted as the most decorated women's fighter ever. But I mean, Valentina Shevchenko has got to be the close second, right? I mean,
She is an absolute killer.
other than I know there Ronda Rousey, but dude, to me honestly, there's no one better technically than Valentina Shevchenko.
She's complete everywhere. I mean, she's
Everywhere.
so hard to beat everywhere.
Not just complete, not just decent or anything like that. She's like world class
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. All right, so Buster Douglas, 40-1, right? That'll never happen again. Nobody will ever get those odds again on a boxing match. Explain to me a minus 800 in the UFC.
Mhm.
What's the comparison? Minus 800, would that compare to a 40-1 in boxing?
Boy,
I mean, the comparison meaning like you're not getting 40-1 on anybody ever again. My point is that's a huge line, minus 800.
it would
Right?
be Michigan losing to App State.
Okay.
Similar. Or one of the crazier, wilder comeback blowouts, or not blowouts, excuse me, but comeback stories that you see in other sports where it's like, how did this happen? It's a monumental moment. It's like something that program will write down in history. Like people remember where they were when Appalachian State beat Michigan. That type of level of overcoming adversity when it comes to beating someone like Valentina Shevchenko.
I'll tell you what, though, I agree completely. But I think I was very impressed and surprised by Alexa Grasso throughout the whole fight. I was most impressed by her boxing. I was really not expecting her striking to be at the level that it was at. So, though obviously it was an amazing victory with her being such a big underdog, but I was very impressed with her throughout the whole fight.
She was solid.
Yeah,
She was absolutely
and
solid.
then that's because of how good Valentina is. Yeah,
Correct.
I was just so impressed that she was doing so well.
Absolutely.
Against,
Even to not just get ragdolled, like
Yes,
so many of her.
exactly,
You know,
yeah.
they always say, and they said it about Habib, but I think the expression was like back when Michael Jordan would play, it was like he was the only guy on the court. Well, typically when Shevchenko fights, she's the only person in the cage. Like
Yeah.
it's maulings, and so for her to hold her own, let alone get that incredible victory, hats off to her. Well done. Well done.
And
Fun fights.
I'm losing her name. Who was the lady that Shevchenko just fought before that? That they it was a very close fight.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart too.
Yeah, I
Hold
can't
on.
think of her name for some reason, but she also that was a very competitive fight. Arguably, a lot of people argued that she won, and so we have seen Valentina now, 2 fights in a row where she's faced a lot of adversity, and then obviously in the last fight even got caught.
So how does she come back? What do you see for her?
Oh,
next fight?
I think Valentina Shevchenko is a real world champion, and you can even tell in like her post fight interview, she was already constructive criticism. Looking at it open, with a world champion's mindset of
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna get better from this.
Yeah.
This sucks, but that's part of the game, and I will get better. And I believe her.
Yeah.
I really believe her. I think that this will fire her up to reach even new heights. And it sucks that sometimes we have to take a loss in order to do that. But I really think that she's gonna come back with a vengeance and be better than ever.
And I'm curious, like you see that a lot with fighters that go on that undefeated streak, and I should say, well, for reference, you've seen a lot throughout the UFC of a fighter that's been up and coming, that's then maybe won the belt, or they've gone on this crazy undefeated streak, or they seem unbeatable,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden you see a chink in the armor, they take a loss. Then I feel like that's when you really see what type of fighter they are.
Absolutely.
Do they have that turning point, both mentally, physically? Are they still as invested? Because I do think some fighters view it as like almost a weight off of your back
Yeah.
when you finally get
Yeah,
that loss.
absolutely.
And then I think also some fighters really shrivel, and I think mentally it's crippling to have an experience where you think that you're on top of the world and untouchable, then all of a sudden the guy touches you up, and you're maybe
kinda
not
hard
the
to
same
bounce
guy.
back.
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I think that it definitely goes both ways. I think that it's a matter of the competitor that is handling the situation, and I really think that it can make or break a lot of people. Just like you were just saying, some people use it to their advantage, to let it fuel them and push them to reach new heights. But some people, mentally can't get over once being untouchable or unbeatable, and now losing, and don't ever really come back fully the same. But I think part of another reason of what happens is when you get somebody that seems unbeatable or untouchable and is just mauling everybody, and it seems to be a world beater. Whenever somebody exposes them, it kind of gives people more confidence, and lets them in, and reminds them that, oh, this is just another human too. This person
Yeah.
bleeds the same way that I do.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes away this almost like
Mystique,
godlike.
right? You
Yes,
saw that a lot with McGregor on his way up.
McGregor, and for me personally, I really think that with Islam, with the fight
Yeah.
against Volkanovski, I really thought of. I was so high on Islam, that Islam Makhachev, that I was like, man, I do not like to think of anybody as almost unbeatable, because everybody's beatable. Everybody's human. Everybody's bleeds the same, and but there's some outliers that are the best in the world
Right.
for a reason. And Islam Makhachev, man, was showing to me that I was like, I don't know who's going to beat this guy.
Yeah.
I really don't. And
Totally
but to see
agree.
Alexander Volkanovski, which in my opinion is one of my, is the pound for pound best fighter in the world. He maintained that ranking, even though they kind of wagered it or whatever. But he definitely proved in that fight, going up a weight class against the most dangerous guy. I think Islam Makhachev is probably the best fighter in all of the UFC, especially after the way that he handled Charles Oliveira. I really think that he proved that. And then for Alexander Volkanovski to step up and do what he did, to me, made me realize, oh yeah, he is beatable. Like he has, again, I think Islam's going to be the champion that he is, and he's going to come back better than ever. And who knows, he might go on another tear of like he's going to look unbeatable.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have that reminder of like he's a human.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that, Dave. I've mentioned it before. These Dagestani guys, they are just different, my friend. My quote: "In America, is child do you play with dog? In Russia, is child do you play with bear?" And it's like it's true. These Dagestani guys are so scary. I mean, they are terrifying individuals. Now, there was a little controversy surrounding that event with Volkanovski and Makachev around
With the IV.
the IV. So can you talk us through a little bit, and
There we go.
specifically, I guess our listeners, but even I'm still confused a little bit about the IV rules and the weight cutting, and can you just give us sort of an understanding of what?
So I myself,
we're not going to leave you alone about the weight cutting.
I myself am a little confused by the
Yeah,
IV rules. But anyways, actually, at my last fight, because it was immediately it was the next week. It was the week after the Perth card in
Right.
Australia. So USADA actually at the UFC fight at weigh-ins kind of got us all together and gave a rundown on like, hey, these are the rules.
Okay.
And it was truthfully, it was a little to me, it was still
Hairy,
really
little
confusing.
gray area.
Yeah. But essentially, they were saying that IVs are not illegal as long as you get them approved.
Okay.
And I think you don't even need to have them approved if it's under 100 cc's
Okay.
or something like that.
Okay.
cc's, milliliters, I don't remember what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
unit
yeah.
of measurement is.
Mhm.
I don't ever use IVs, so but yeah, it's still a little bit of gray area. But I also think they were saying that Islam, I think the whole argument was like you could see where it looked like he had
An
been
injection mark.
pricked with a needle for an
An IV.
injection mark. But I think a lot of people were saying that it came out that he had actually gave blood, or got blood work done
Okay.
for the fight,
Okay.
very close to the fight, and that might have been what that was. I'm not really sure.
It could,
I don't quite
that
remember.
to me could be anything. It's really
Yeah.
the conversation to me is more interesting about. It seemed like years back, Dave, for your reference, they banned IVs because guys were cutting so much weight, just knowing that I got a full day to recover and I can use IVs and all these other things to rehydrate.
Yeah.
And I do think that if Islam's going to have one issue, it'll be the same issue that Habib had, and that's the
The weight
scale.
cut. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that was
he's
Habib's biggest
massive.
component.
He's
Uh,
massive.
Yes, he's so big. He's bigger than Habib. I mean, he's
Yeah.
taller. He's insanely
Much more
big.
well built.
And so
Yeah.
for him to make that 155, you see these guys that are dying on the scales, and then
They
to
take. I mean, they
have
take it to extremes.
right.
It is. I mean, it sounds insane, and like to the casual fan, you might not understand or know. I mean, it's pretty absurd. It's pretty absurd what we do to make
Elaborate.
weight. Something. It's something, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had my best friend go with me to my fight, this last fight, and he was there helping me cut weight, with my other teammates and stuff, and he was like, "Dude, I cannot actually comprehend that all of you guys do this before you fight in a cage the following day."
Yeah.
And it's pretty ridiculous, it is. I'm very against weight cuts, but I do think it's unfortunately such a part of the game. It's so ingrained into the sport
It
that
absolutely is.
I really think it's going to be a hard way. It's going to be hard to find a way around it and make it better. I do have hopes that eventually we're going to find. I don't know whether it'll be kind of adopting maybe some sort of approach similar to what ONE FC has right now with the hydration. But I know there's still ways around that. It's but the I really think right now, man, the weight cuts are just brutal.
It's
It's just
insane.
it
It's
because
so much.
you really are. I mean,
I just don't
there's a
get it.
lot of
I
people.
don't. I
There's a
don't.
lot of people, and I would imagine somebody like Islam Makhachev, you're literally knocking on death's door. Of
Yeah.
like your body is in such a severe state
That's
of
what I worry about.
dehydration,
Right?
and
Yeah.
I mean
Well,
it's ridiculous. But with that being said, there is a science to it. It's it
absolutely.
and all of these guys, especially at the highest level, are doing it most likely as efficient as possible.
Monitored by the staff
Yes,
and
yeah,
the UFC is, and credit to them, have gotten really good at the
absolutely,
monitoring and making sure.
They do an amazing job.
And to some degree, there's just only so much you can do. It's always been a part of the sport. I mean, it's
Yep.
a really heavy part of the sport. You certainly don't ever want to see someone, have negative health effects, both short and long term. But I do think that in this situation, in that fight, I was watching Islam and I'm like, he looks drained. It looks as though, to me, as an outsider looking in, it looked as though the weight cut affected him. On top of the fact that he's fighting Volkanovski, but I just felt like he looked a little bit flat.
I do think that I would definitely think the weight cut will always play a factor,
Yeah.
especially somebody massive like himself. He's got to cut a lot of weight, but I really think more than anything, your nerves, the effect that it plays on your overall nervous system,
Yeah.
and I really think that is what greatly diminishes your conditioning more than anything. So your ability to stay calm and relaxed is so unbelievably important and crucial. Even and a lot of times you'll even see. I heard a saying the other day of loosen the mind tight with the body. So it's okay to be kind of tense with the body as long as you're relaxed. You're breathing, you're thinking. But where it gets really hairy and where people really start gassing quick is when even in their mind it's chaotic. Everything's crazy. Everything's happening so fast, and they're stressed out. And
So you have to slow it down.
yeah, you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think to me, that's why like getting hit and stuff is even is tiring. Even though you're not physically doing anything, getting hit, it's taxing on your nervous system. It causing you to your body's under severe stress.
I do want to tell you, and yes, I'm always going to try to be funny because that's just how I am. But seriously, since the last time we had you on, I've lost 30 pounds.
You look great.
So I appreciate that. So I'm not getting ready for a fight. Just
I was gonna say,
yeah.
155. I mean,
no, I do not.
you're gonna get.
Are you insane? If
I'm
I
just
was
saying,
his age,
that's
I
his
still
fighting
would-
weight, and I bet he weighs more than you right now.
No, I'm
I don't know.
182 as of this morning.
I am a little heavier than you.
Are you really?
Told you.
Wow.
And that's right.
Yeah,
and he'll
but
be at
right
here's the
55.
difference. You're all muscle. My body fat is like 48%.
He has zero wasted space.
What's your body fat right now?
I have no
10%?
idea.
About 10%.
No, it's more than that.
Yeah.
I-
Fight time. What is it?
Oh, fight time! It's crazy.
Got to be
low.
7%, 6%.
Yeah, it would probably be lower. Like I would imagine 5, 6%.
Yeah, it gets. I mean, they're
bodybuilding
on
the scale and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on the
Because
scale.
I believe, I don't know, I don't really get my body fat percentage checked or anything like that. But I believe like bodybuilders, they're probably more like, especially at the most elite level, they're probably more like 2-3%.
They're
on
very
stage,
low.
I believe.
Yeah.
I think I would probably be like 6,
Okay.
Yeah.
7.
And it's one of those things where
We don't get
even
as lean.
with the bodybuilders, or with MMA athletes, you can't sustain that level
No.
of leanness. It's just
No,
not healthy. It's bad for you.
no, it'll literally, it's bad
Yeah.
for your overall health as far
Everything.
as like even just like disrupting your endocrine system. Your hormones are going to be
Yep.
just
Yep.
all over the place. Your
Joints,
yeah,
you name it,
it's
it's
just
bad.
not good. You know, even if you can maintain it, it's
Yeah.
just not optimal for
Right.
sure.
Right.
You know? Especially for performance.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Like that's like the biggest differentiating factor between bodybuilding and you know, making weight for fighting.
Right.
You know, it's very similar. You're both cutting weight and you know, getting as lean as possible and losing the body fat, whatever. But the actual performance aspect
Yep.
of it, you know, and
Yep.
even leading up into it, the preparation.
Yep.
We have to perform so much, so frequently, so often that we can't, you know, cut our carbs the same. We can't, you know, we don't diet quite the same because diet for performance and diet for losing weight
Just weight
is
loss
two
is very
different things.
different. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Very different.
I want to get Clemson in here because I know he wants to be a part of this too,
For
and
sure.
he's got some questions for you. But there's a couple. I know we're going a little off, but we're going a little. I want to make sure I get these in, okay, for you.
Let's hear it.
So I've had some questions. I have a friend of mine who lives, you know, UFC, MMA. He just like Micah. He's very knowledgeable, is just like Micah. So he sent me a couple questions, and one I asked Micah the other day, and one we wanted to bring up with you. But the first is, did the headbutt cause the cut? Which
No, it was a knee. Sorry, I'm messing with this mic.
It's
you
okay.
know what happened? Oh, there it goes. I didn't realize the ear just got turned and it was all funky.
It's that cauliflower ear.
That's
Cauliflower-
actually what I was gonna say.
that
My ears are
cauliflower
all
ear
freaking
survivors,
flared
you know?
out. Yeah, but no, headbutt did not cause a fight. It was totally legal knee. So
So
it was.
I'm sorry.
it was a knee.
You're good.
It was a knee.
It was a knee. It was early in the third round. I shot in on a takedown, and as I came, so I shot in, got to the single leg, and he defended, jacked me up, and as I came up, he clubbed the back of my head and threw a knee, and it just
Oh,
glanced. So it
okay.
just hardly touched my eye, but it busted it open.
Yeah.
And then I believe it got worse whenever I blocked the head kick, and his
Okay.
knee folded in and kind of bumped where it was already cut.
Yeah.
And they happened kind of back to back, so there wasn't much time in between. So it was kind of hard to tell exactly where it had happened.
Yeah.
But it was from a knee after the takedown. It wasn't as I came in; it was after the takedown.
Yeah.
And then I think that blocking the head kick and his knee hitting it is what blew it up.
Yeah. And then when the doctor came in, was it an immediate? Did he? I mean, I watched it happen live, and he and I were texting back and forth about it. As soon as I saw it, I said, "That's trouble." I was like,
Yeah.
"That is just trouble." I mean, you
It
kind
was
of
a-
it
it's
was
just a
it was
horrible
a
spot.
beast. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I would, dude. I could not believe that it happened so fast. The doctor came in and was like, "Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
over." I was like,
He just barely
"Whoa,
glanced.
dude,
I
you
could
didn't
even
look
see it.
at
I could even
So
see
everything was legal here. Because here's the other question. Let's see what it says here. During the press conference after the fight, Evans' opponent said that the cut was caused by an accidental headbutt. So
He
that's
was-
not true.
He was talking about the cut that happened to him.
Okay.
We both ducked and
Okay.
came back into
Ah.
each other, and
Okay.
I bumped his. You know, we bumped heads, and it cut him above the eyebrow. And
Yeah.
that's what I think. So everybody told me. Everybody was like, sent me that. Was like, oh, he admitted that it was illegal headbutt that caused the cut. Get it overturned. You know, because
Yeah, that's what we're gonna ask. Is there appeal? Is
no, because it was illegal. So the difference, though, that is a good question, and would probably be good for the fans to know. Would be in that situation. So in my situation, it was a legal strike that caused the cut that led to the end of the fight because he hit me with a knee and then potentially a kick, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, both legal, resulting in a pretty massive cut right over the brow of my eye, or right on my eyebrow, and it was going down into my eye. And one of the big problems
looked
was there
bad,
was
for
you
sure.
could see the artery through it.
Yeah.
It was deep enough where you could literally see the artery, so they were really concerned about that. So it led to the fight being stopped. Excuse me. And now on the other side, the what you were saying is if the fight got ended by a headbutt, that is technically like an illegal blow. So one of two things would have happened with, I believe, where we were at in the fight was late enough into the fight
You
where they
would've
would
won.
stop the fight and went to the judges' scorecards
Okay.
because there was enough fight to
Oh,
have been
really?
judged.
Yeah.
Really?
So
Yeah.
then I probably would have won.
Right.
Because all three judges had me up 2 rounds to none. And I could be wrong about that as far as it going to the judges.
Right.
They might have just
From
still
what I
declared
found
it a
out
no
through my friend,
contest.
you would have won.
Yes,
would have
that's
been
what I
that it
believe.
would have
On
been
the on the
stopped.
judges' scorecards.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was
And
2018 on all
And
three.
so how far does it then have to go?
I want to say if it's
Halfway through the third round, potentially,
or the second,
Second
or the
round.
second round.
I think he
because
said
they
the
have
second
two rounds
round.
to
Oh,
judge off
Yeah.
of, basically.
Okay.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, but I think
am
that's
a
why we
little
were
unsure
confused.
on that rule.
Interesting. Okay.
But if it happens early enough into the fight, if the fight gets caught or caused to stop
No
from an illegal
contest, right?
blow, it'll
Yeah.
be declared a no
Yeah.
contest.
So I want to get this in here because I was at Hot Springs, Arkansas. Happened to
Okay.
be that weekend for your fight. I got front row seats in their big sports book. I had a good day at the races,
Nice.
and I took everything I was up
oh
and
no.
put it on your fight. But that's okay. No, this is. I just want to
That's
tell
a
you.
part of
No,
the
that
game.
I didn't.
That's a
No,
part of
it's
the game,
listen,
baby.
from a gambler, it's
Dang.
look. I'm more worried about you, right? So let's.
I'm fine.
But what I'm
You
saying
don't have
is,
to worry about
what
me.
no,
I'm
what
good.
I'm saying is a gambler, the first two rounds, like I'm like a child, right?
He and I are texting
I'm screaming.
back and
I'm in the
forth.
sports
Yeah.
book, and the
Yep.
sportsbook manager I know through an interview I've had with him. I get treated like royalty when I go down there. The owner and sportsbook manager, I've done interviews with them of this huge casino racetrack facility,
Sorry. I
and
just pushed the table.
and so I've got a front row seat saved for me and my friends that we went down there with. Here you are on the big screen. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I got my ticket in my hand. And then I sit down after the second round, right? And we're talking. And here starts the third round. I look up and he's going like this.
I know,
And
man.
I wanted to personally just tell you, for you, I wanted to throw up. For me, I wanted to throw up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah,
I'm being honest. You know,
Man,
but,
I had a
like,
couple. I've had a couple people tell me that they
it was
bet on
just
me.
gross to see. Like I didn't understand what happened, and then you could see you were really
It
hurt.
was a good stoppage, man. I
Yeah.
hate it. And
At the
dude,
time, I was like, "Is he
Oh.
okay?" Because that looks bad.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I always tell everybody, especially my family, like don't ever worry about me because I'm
Yeah.
always gonna be good, even if I'm not good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
One of the things I hated was like just that knowledge of like, yeah, I mean, it was bad. Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
times where you're like, okay, you've seen some really bloody fights go on before where they let it go, and it's like, okay. But this one, just the location, the
It was
fact
the
that it was
location.
near the eye,
Yeah.
blood going into the eye, that's
Yeah.
just something that the doctors are very
And
cognizant
truthfully,
of.
that's really just not an injury. You don't want to mess with the eyes,
No,
man.
no.
Like it's not worth.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is, and man, it's so funny because I've rewatched the fight several times, and every single time when they stop the fight, it's almost like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
and it's like I rewatch it, and it's like my heart just breaks. I'm like, no
Yeah.
way, man.
I know.
Are you really
Well,
stopping the fight?
If they didn't know who you were before, they know now.
I
No,
think
Fight of the
you're-
night.
no
It was an
doubt,
incredible fight. It's like
stock
there's
continues to rise.
oh
Thank
my
you.
good
Um,
Evan,
it's
man,
that Chandler
I've
effect.
never had that much fun. I mean, I'm like, I know him. I know him. This
Well,
was
thank you.
fantastic. Oh my god.
Thank you.
I was yelling at
I mean-
both TVs that I had it on. I was like, I
I
had
look
two
like
TVs
the
on.
crazy gambler in the sports book. That was me.
Nothing
That's
wrong with
awesome.
right?
Well,
No,
thank you, guys.
everybody in the entire sports book knew who I bet on. I
Absolutely.
can promise you that.
You weren't
Absolutely.
hiding it, huh?
No.
I'm very I'm an
We were
animated
going nuts.
individual.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Adds to the involvement and being invested into
Right.
what you're betting on.
Yeah. Well, I did want to get to one thing before. We're going to take a break here in just a second and get Clemson in here so he can ask you some questions and you guys can go over the rest of what you got. But you said your first UFC fight, mentally, it was you weren't. I don't know how to explain what you said.
Adrenaline dump. I
Yeah,
believe was
right.
the
But
term.
So
essentially,
that's correct.
yeah.
So this fight, from what I saw, and like I'm a novice, I don't have the knowledge Micah or other people have. You seem completely in the zone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
you
was
were
locked
you
in
were
for
locked
sure.
in for
Yeah.
sure. And I
This
just
one was much
from a
better.
novice watching, I'm like, I don't want to be the other guy.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
heck
I'm
no.
serious. You
thank
look
you.
you looked fantastic, and it was so much fun to watch.
Thank
So
you.
mentally, what did you do different to prepare?
I prepared.
Okay.
I just
So
Okay,
okay. Well,
you
yeah.
had a
just had
camp.
more-
Yeah.
I just
Well, that
had
was a
more
short
time to
question.
prepare.
Well, because last time it was on what?
Uh,
How many days notice?
4 days notice.
4 days
Yeah.
notice. So like,
And it was, truthfully, and that's no excuse either, because I mean, and that's why that fight specifically pained me so bad to have performed and have felt the way that I did. It's because I've that means so much to me. Of like, because this stuff is so much bigger than fighting to me, and it's about being a great competitor at life. I want to be just great at life, you know.
Yeah.
And but I think, through MMA is a very actionable way to, take those skills and what I've learned in the cage and on the mats, and apply that outside of those areas, and,
Yeah.
be great at life. But anyway, so I've prepared myself, or tried to, as much as I can, to be prepared for any opportunity, any obstacle, any adversity, any circumstance, to where when it arises, I can deal with it. And I thought that, all my mental preparation, and all the work I've put in was really going to kind of shine through in that moment of like, this is the best opportunity of short notice, up a weight class. I'm supposed to lose. I'm supposed to not do well, and I'm like, this is my an opportunity to blow all this out of the water,
Yep.
And I didn't come through it like I had hoped, and I was really upset that I had let the moment get the best of me. But that's life, and I'll tell you what, man, it made me a much better competitor in the fight, for the next fight, and in life. Man.
Well, it showed,
So,
in your most recent fight, the composure. You were well rounded. You showcased skills.
Yeah.
You were good in tough moments when you were in tough positions, and then you were, I think, excellent. And it showed even watching some of your training on social media. For me, as someone who loves coaching, it's really fun to see you training something 3 months ago and then see you implementing it in the fight. It's fun and cool to watch the progression.
well,
So
thank you.
well done.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
Quick break.
Yeah, we're gonna just a
All right.
second. We're here live at the Irish Gypsy in O'Fallon, having a great time with Evan Elder and Micah Mills. We're gonna take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, Clemson John is gonna take my seat and have a little talk with these two guys. We'll be right back.
Total domination, domination, domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner! Total domination, domination, domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Not for
guys, we
me.
are back here at the Irish Gypsy Bar in O'Fallon, Missouri on Bryan Road. Here with Evan Elder and Micah. So, yeah, guys, we're going to be Thursday. We're going to be at DraftKings at Casino Queen. Thursday 6 p.m. and Friday on 590 The Fan at 6 p.m. there as well. But yeah, getting into the fight game. What is? I know you guys have to watch your weight, of course. You gotta get down to the weigh-in part, make sure your weight's right. But when that fight's over, what is your favorite post-fight meal?
You know, honestly, that's kind of a tough one for me because I don't have two particular. You know, I'm not super crazy routine. You know, we were just talking off the air before of. You know, a lot of people are. You know, almost even a little superstitious, or maybe it's just super routine of like, you know, they do the same thing right after weigh-ins, they eat this, right after the fight, they eat this. You know, to me, I'm a little more loose in that aspect of the routine. And with after weigh-ins and after the fight are very different though, because after weigh-ins, you still have to compete the next day. It's not time to splurge and gorge yourself. You don't get to do what you want. The most important part is yet to come. You know, so after weigh-ins, I usually try to stick to whatever I have been eating during fight camp because that's what my body's adjusted to. It's what it's used to breaking down.
Which would be,
You know, a lot of sweet potatoes. So it's very, very carb heavy. After weigh-ins, after you deplete a lot of your, because most of us, for me myself at least, you go very low carb for a long time. I'm sorry, actually, let me rephrase that just because I don't want people listening to this and then thinking I need to go no carb. I am a huge advocate of carbs.
they're the best.
I eat carbs all the time. I don't even care about how many carbs I eat because I use them so much for performance.
Right.
But whenever we do have to get to like super strict weight cutting mode, about 2 weeks out, I start lowering my carbs. And then the week of the fight is usually no carb.
Yeah.
So because of that, you start not refilling glycogen storage. Then your body starts utilizing fat to refill those glycogen stores and whatnot. So, anyways, when those glycogen storages get low, like they will be, especially after weigh-ins, that's what you're really going to want to refuel.
Right.
So your main focus on refueling after weigh-ins, especially for the fight before performance, is getting those carbs in to spike your blood sugar, you know, to get the sugar back in the muscles.
Right.
That way you're
just fill
locked in,
back
loaded.
out, right?
Exactly.
I mean, between that and water, right?
Yeah,
Carbs,
of course.
of course,
That's the
water.
most important part.
Right.
Rehydration before anything. But,
Right.
So that's immediately after weigh-ins, rehydration for the first about hour.
Right.
Just nothing but hydration. And you know, actually, a little insight for some of the fans that might not know. As soon as you get done off the scale, you don't get to just start slamming and eating. Your body, you gotta slowly wean your way back into that because it's a tough process on your body.
Michael went over that with us a week or two ago.
Yeah.
You can't just slam
your
favorite meal. You have to
and not even
really
just that, but like literally even rehydrate.
Oh yeah.
So like if you start rehydrating too fast, man, it'll start.
I
kill my stomach sometimes because your stomach gets so shrank and you're very depleted.
Yeah.
You know your
body might reject it if you're not careful. I've been at weigh-ins before where I've seen kids who clearly have cut too much weight, go in, slam a bunch of stuff, and about 10 minutes later, it's all over the table. I've seen it. Not pretty. So you have to like really, again, it's a science. Like everything else
really
now,
is.
it's very
Really
much a
is.
science, both with the water loading, the salt, you know, the weight cut, and all of that is really, really scientific now.
Yeah,
and
it's I mean
credit to you
literally
guys.
down to like not just having the salt and the carbs, whatever. It's like the right ratios of like making sure in your rehydration protocol, you know, what levels of electrolytes are you prioritizing? You know, are you focusing on magnesium and sodium and chloride or zinc?
Wow.
You know, at different stages, whatever. So and then afterwards, you know, it's very carb focused. You know, like we were just saying, refilling those glycogen stores, and then you know, protein too, of course, but by far most important is going to be the carbohydrates. But then a little bit more fun side is after the fight. Once the performance is done, you get to enjoy yourself a little bit more. You know, I don't specifically have like a go-to. If I would say I did, it would probably used to be pancakes. that pancakes always sounded so good to me after a
Yeah.
fight. So just a big old fat stack of pancakes smothered in syrup. Usually feel like garbage for a while afterwards because you're not
That
used
sounds
to
good
eating
regardless of the
it.
fight. I mean,
Does.
to
It
me, that
does.
sounds good,
Yeah.
just on a casual Tuesday
Yep.
afternoon,
Yeah. I try to. I have been trying to be much more disciplined and strict with my diet and nutrition, not just for weight purposes, but just for health, overall
Yeah.
health. Because I really have, man, I feel so much better. I love the saying that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And I
Yeah.
really do agree with it because the other day, for example, I went and had an amazing meal with some amazing people and indulged and gorged myself, and I paid for it.
Yep.
Like I really paid for it. I went to work out and was super nauseous, felt
Really?
like garbage, and like
Wow.
it's just not worth it to me anymore. So of course I still have those moments where I do either fall short in the discipline area, or I just consciously choose to enjoy the moment with the people that I'm around and indulge
Of
in some
course.
stuff that I probably shouldn't. But there's consequences for everything you do, and I definitely pay for it. So I definitely choose to try to remain on the more nutritious side of things nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, pancakes. If I'm splurging, um, what else? A good burger is always. Oh, what am I talking about? You know what? You know what's been my go-to my last two fights, especially being in Vegas. In-N-Out Burger.
In
Oh
and
my
out.
Really?
gosh!
Okay.
Heck yeah!
Okay.
Okay,
You
I
seem
have nothing
disappointed.
wrong with it. I just feel like it's like a steak and shake.
What?
No, I
Yeah,
disagree with
it's
that.
like
I just
disagree.
that's your low.
you know,
I
there's
don't.
a
I don't buy into the
there's a
hype.
better burger place that's kind of making its way in St. Louis. Uh,
What a burger?
no,
Oh,
I don't know.
with the green sign.
yeah. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
Green sign.
oh gosh, I'm gonna make me look.
Wow.
Shake
Yeah.
Shack.
Shake Shack.
Oh,
Shake
Shake
Shack.
Shack.
Yes.
Shake Shack is
Shake
pretty
Shack.
good. I've only had it
That
like
was really
once.
bad that I couldn't
Oh,
think of that.
that's an
Very
incredible
good.
burger.
Really?
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
I'm not sure. I can't. I think I've really only had it one time. I
Yeah.
don't really remember that well.
So
Last week I did kind of indulge myself when I came in here. They've got a burger that's between two slices of Provel cheese,
oh boy.
like two grilled cheeses with
Ah,
Provel cheese on it inside, like in the burger inside of that. Phenomenal burger here at
yeah.
Irish Gypsy. So that
So
was a great burger.
if I may switch gears a little bit,
Of
but I
course.
wanted to ask you some other UFC related questions now. Um, UFC's gotten so mainstream now with all these celebrities coming to the big fights and so many different personalities. Have you gotten to meet any really cool people,
Um.
both in and out of the fight game, I guess, as a result
Well,
of what you're doing?
I've gotten to meet a ton of fighters
Yeah.
that man, that's the coolest thing in the world to me,
Yeah.
just because I mean, so many people that I've literally looked up to my whole life. I'm meeting guys that even just sharing the mats with, getting to train with them. That's
Yeah.
the craziest thing to me is I've met so many of my heroes. Like
Yep.
I've growing up as a kid, you watching these guys on TV, and I'm like,
Absolutely.
man, one day I want to be like them, and not wouldn't say I'm there yet, but getting to even just be able to share the mats and to actually train and practice with them, is just
Getting to dance with the
incredible.
Lions.
Yeah,
A lot of
so
fun.
it's amazing. It's a dream come true. And outside of that, I've definitely met some uh, you know really cool people. Some celebrities, and not necessarily at the UFC fights.
Really. Just kind
Yeah,
of through
just yep.
being
Someone
in
will come
the.
in through the gym, being just being in the same location,
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, not necessarily at the fights like you were saying. I'm sure that will be a great place to meet them.
Yeah.
But like you kind of alluded to, they usually come to the bigger fights.
Right.
The arena cards, because a lot of the cards that they're putting on the fight nights, the UFC fight nights, are at the UFC Apex. It's a lot more intimate, a lot more secluded. It's not just kind of open to everybody. Seats are a lot more expensive. There's only like I think 60 seats or something,
Right.
60 some odd seats in there. So it's not like you're fighting in an arena with tens of thousands of fans.
Yeah.
So
But that being said, have you had interactions with guys like Dana White, Joe Rogan, Cormier? Some of the bigger
I've
names
not
within
met
the sport.
I have not met Dana White or Joe Rogan.
Okay.
But Paul Felder and Brendan Fitzgerald and Laura Senko, the other commentators and stuff like that. I have.
Absolute
They're
legends.
They're awesome.
Legend.
I'll be honest. I was super geeked getting to hang
Oh,
out
what
and
a
talk with
dude.
Paul Felder.
Paul
Oh,
Felder,
dude, he's the man.
absolute legend.
He's just the man.
Shout out Paul Felder.
Shout out Paul
No
Felder
free
for
shout
sure.
outs. But Ariel Hawani,
No,
No?
I have not met him
What are your
yet.
thoughts on him? He's kind of a controversial figure. If
I
you're not
guess so, yeah.
familiar, John, Ariel Hawani has been covering the sport as a reporter, analyst for, well, I guess a reporter for really since kind of the inception, and he's sort of had a back and forth with Dana White and some interesting relationships with the UFC and some falling outs. But he also is probably the premier coverage when it comes to journalism of the fight
Promoter.
I would
game.
say, yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
I like Ariel.
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure there are some things he's a little controversial on. But overall, I don't think that I haven't seen too many times where I have a problem with like a lot of the controversial journalism. I guess
Media as a whole.
would just be like either interviewing people with a specific motive to try to get like kind of clickbaity
An
headlines,
agenda.
or get elicit specific responses to where you're getting stuff that's going to be
That you can clip and turn
good
it.
for you.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is going to look good for me for
Right.
my journalism.
Right.
Not I'm trying to just have a good quality interview.
Right,
Really,
right. You're trying to tell your side of the story
Yeah,
as
yeah,
opposed to the story.
And maybe I don't watch him enough to see all the controversy, but I
Right.
personally think he just does a good job.
Yeah, I
and
totally
there,
agree.
maybe it's just there's a lot of controversy amongst the sport.
Yeah, well-
it's a pretty heavy. A lot of people like to talk trash, and there's a lot of debate on who's this and who's that,
Yeah.
who's better. So I'm sure there's just controversy in general. So
It's
I personally like him.
it's been fun to watch too. Like he's just so synonymous with the coverage of the sport because he's been around
Yeah,
since
yeah.
Jump Street, right? Before anybody knew who he was or even really the UFC. He was out there
Yeah.
doing interviews with guys that would later go on to be legends and champions.
Yeah.
Now, that brings me to my next question and another personality in the space, Brendan Schaub. You're familiar, obviously.
yeah.
Have you had any interactions with him, or what are your
No.
thoughts? And I have my own agenda as well in covering this. But I'm
Hey,
just curious.
dude, we're all human.
Yep.
Actually, you know what? I just heard something the other day. It's something about even when being objective, we have to understand our subjectivity
Absolutely.
and compensate for that in order for us to be objective. So
Absolutely.
it's like just understanding that we're human. We all have our own agendas. Some greater or smaller than others. But it's never going to go away.
Oh,
So don't
yeah.
feel bad for that.
Absolutely.
But what going back to Brendan Schaub.
Yeah.
I haven't had any interactions with him, but
Okay.
again, it's another guy. Maybe it's just I don't know if it's me. I don't personally ever have any
Yeah.
ill
see,
thoughts or
see, you're different than me because you're such a nice guy and
you.
you always see the best in everyone. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to hate on Brendan Schaub, but he is, for those of you who don't know, a former fighter turned comedian and big time podcast host. He's in the Joe Rogan sphere. He's on Joe Rogan's show a lot and gets a lot of hate from
He's
the community.
I would say more controversial
Yes, absolutely.
than Ariel, but yeah, I don't know if it's I choose not to.
Probably.
I don't
that.
know, but I don't ever really, I don't ever hear much, and I'm like, oh, that guy's
Yeah.
an idiot. Or
I don't think he's a bad person by any means, but I do think he's doesn't always have the best takes, or sometimes doesn't always speak with the best background. And I've recently run across there's this Reddit, like a Reddit page,
Yeah.
and there's this whole Reddit page that's dedicated to his podcast, and it's him and Brian Callen, who's another comedian in that sphere, and there's this Reddit page that's dedicated to basically analyzing, breaking down all of their thoughts, and for lack of better words, just making fun of them because they say some really dumb stuff. And I didn't know about this at all until a few weeks ago. I saw a clip of Brendan Schaub saying something. I was like, that's ridiculous. So I just looked him up and I came across this page. It's got 115,000 members of this page that are all like, basically, I think most of it, I think, is in just good humor and making light of a guy that sometimes says some goofy stuff. But it's just wild to see the sub followings of like Ariel Hawani has that, Joe Rogan has that, of like not only is there these reporters that are covering the sport, but there's communities that follow and break down, and podcasts that break down the podcasts of the fight game. Like that's how
Yeah.
deep this media mechanism has gone, and it also shows how important it is then for up and coming fighters like yourself to then market themselves because there's so many people out there and
Yeah.
eyeballs and availability to get these content. I don't know. That was just my one off aside.
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I try not to have any animosity or ill thoughts or anything ill will towards anybody,
Yeah.
because it just occupies too much of your own
Totally
mental
agree.
capacity and bandwidth in your mind and your heart. But that bothers me a little bit of people just going so far out of their way
Yes.
to hate on somebody else.
It's
It's like, if
really
it's that big, if you dislike something or someone that much, why would you go so far out of your way
it's a way
to?
it's such a waste of time.
Yeah, to me, I'm
Um,
just like, you're wasting your own time.
well, honestly, you're giving that person a lot of credit by
Yeah.
spending that amount
Who
of
was the
time.
baseball player, super famous? He was pretty notoriously said he was very flamboyant and wasn't a fan favorite a lot of times. And anyways, he said
I can think of one, Albert Bell. If you guys remember Albert Bell,
I'm thinking like
no,
Jeter or A Rod
knocked
or
out the
something
guy.
like
no,
that.
I don't quite remember. I don't follow baseball hardly at all.
No worry.
But anyways, he was getting booed at an away stadium, and
Oh, Barry Bonds used to all the time.
it might
Oh,
have
there's
been,
plenty.
but he said that they don't boo nobodies.
That's true.
And
That is
true.
true.
it's, I mean, a lot of times these people that are catching slack and like they have these big subgroups, maybe have 115,000
Yeah.
people on a Reddit, are usually there because they're
Talking about it
Well,
for a reason.
hey,
yeah,
look,
they're
look,
pretty popular.
it's always come back to asses in seats, baby. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's
Yeah.
down to. And you know what?
Koscheck, I
Look
love
at
Koscheck's hate me or love me, talk about me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when they stop talking about me, that's when I'm off my game. I think that was
Yeah.
Koscheck as well. And I think it's important, like, look at Jake Paul, total heel of the kind of
Yeah.
fight game community. And I'm not a huge fan or whatever, but he's taken that and marketed it to become what he is because so many people want to just see him either get knocked out or if you are one of his fans, knock the other guy out. But it's very much like that marketing promotional type stuff.
He's a marketing genius
Um,
for sure.
I see you're doing a ton of stuff on your social media, and credit to you and whoever you have behind you
Thank
doing that kind of stuff. How big or how important is that in just kind of your day to day?
Well, truthfully, I mean, I don't know how big of stuff I'm doing, with social media. I try to be as active as possible,
Yeah,
and I really do look at it now as like a job. I hate to say it. I personally don't even really like it. I've always been a fan of like I tried to grow up and kind of base myself on principles of like work hard in silence, let success be your noise, and like what's done in the dark will be brought to the light. So I'm not even really a fan of like broadcasting everything that I'm doing
Self
and
promotion.
right.
yeah, more so because I don't really have a problem with like the self promotion part. It's just almost the idea of like almost grabbing for attention. Like look at me,
Yeah,
it's like I don't really even I don't need it and I don't really care for it, but I do. Which you probably won't believe me saying that if you do look at my social media because I am trying to be active
it's
on there.
a
But
a huge important
I
part of the
really
game.
do look at it as like it would almost be irresponsible of me not to take advantage of
Platform.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it really does. I look at it as just a tool, or just part of the job.
Yeah.
It's like I have to do this because
Yeah.
it would be almost ridiculous not to. So,
Well,
and honestly, and truthfully though, I do have fun with. It is really cool. Um, I'm not that artistic at all, but I do think creativity is one of the highest forms of like self expression. And I'm not that creative. I try to be as creative as I can for the social media side of things, and usually it is just me doing my social media. Uh, so I do have a lot of fun, playing around. Because there's a lot of creative, artistic uh, expression that gets put into videography and photographs and,
Yeah.
and the whole social media realm. So it is fun on that part.
Yeah. Well, I think too for your audience, for someone like myself, I've been following the Michael Chandler for years and years and years, and it was always motivating for me to see him put stuff out, and likewise with you now. And I've even seen kind of an up in your social media presence just since getting to know you, and I think that's great because it's cool for your fans to go out and get online and see, oh, he's putting the work in, he's doing this, And I know it's going to sound kind of lame, but sometimes I'll see that and be like, all right, well, maybe I need to get my butt to the gym or do
That's
a
not
little
lame
something.
at all. I do the same thing.
You know,
but
so
yeah,
I think it can be a very cool platform, and the fact that you have the mentality of it's not all about me just makes it that much more authentic and genuine. And I think it's a no-brainer. It's kind of a must in today's
yeah.
world, and doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and as far as your style, Evan, are you more of a stand with your opponent or take them to the ground?
I mean, I basically started in mixed martial arts, so
Yeah.
I kind of grew up as a mixed martial arts fighter. So I don't really have like a background or a pedigree in any one thing. I'm not like an elite level striker or a Division 1 wrestler or some jiu-jitsu world champion or anything like that. All of my skills kind of developed at the same time. So I wouldn't really even say I have necessarily a preference. I think that being a mixed martial artist is my strongest attribute, and the ability to mix it up because it is a sport all of its own. You know, you can be. I love Kamaru Usman. You know, he said after he won the title from Tyron Woodley, he was like, "I might not be the best pure kickboxer. I might not be the best pure wrestler. I might not be the best pure jiu-jitsu artist. But when it comes to putting all this shit together, I'm the best that ever did it."
Yeah.
And man, it's a whole nother art on its own.
Absolutely.
You know,
So you
because
just adjust to whatever the fight brings.
yeah, you know,
Like
and then really kind of keep mixing it up because there's kind of like a fluidity that needs to happen amongst the different styles of the arts. You know, the blending of everything
Right.
is a skill of its own.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we're going to take a quick break, guys. I'm going to hand it back over to David, and it's been great talking with you, Evan.
Thank
We're
you.
having a
It's been
great
great talking
time
with
here
you
at the
too.
Irish Gypsy in O'Fallon, Missouri on Bryan Road, guys. So come out and see us. But yeah, I'm going to hand it back over to David. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break.
Total domination, domination, domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner! Total domination, domination, domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Welcome back, everyone. We're live here at the Irish Gypsy here in O'Fallon, and we're gonna order some food here in a little bit. We're gonna test out the food here, and I'm sure it's amazing. Well, I came here last night, and the food was very very good. So I got the exact same thing. I'm not
What'd you
really.
get?
I just burger and fries.
Creature habit.
I don't like. Yeah, I know what I
Nothing wrong with
like.
that.
I know what I like, and if especially when I go somewhere for the first time and it's really excellent, I'm not gonna veer off.
Really? See,
Yeah.
I'm the other way. I'm like, I need to try everything.
I'm somewhere
so-
in between. Although I'm probably a creature habit. Like she handed me that. I took one look. Turkey sandwich.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a creature of habit too, but I also I try to be. You know what? I used to be so routine with that. Of I'm gonna whatever I find something I like, I'm just gonna eat that. Um, but then I started coming across things that I didn't think I would like, and I really loved them. And I was like, what else have not tried that I actually really enjoy? So now I'm like, I'll try anything twice.
I want to tell
It's
you
kind
what
of a running joke.
what I had last night. Also, I tried was the Cajun shrimp.
Okay.
Oh my goodness!
It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I
Good
couldn't
Cajun
get
shrimp.
both. There's no way I could eat
Yeah.
all of that food, but
Well,
the Cajun shrimp was amazing.
He also has to be careful about what he eats for most of the year, unlike us. So it makes sense that you would venture out when you do have a little bit of flexibility
What
in
are
the
you
diet.
saying, Micah?
Unlike myself, who I if it's in front of me, I'll eat it.
You
Yeah,
take good care of
I mean,
yourself.
I
yeah.
try to, but I could definitely tighten up the diet
Hey, we
for
all can.
sure. I definitely
Yeah.
could tighten up the diet. I like to stay active, but for the most part, I just eat what I just eat what I want.
I want to
That's
mention
kinda good.
a couple things before we get to the last segment
For
that
sure.
we have. John and I are every Thursday night from DraftKings at Casino Queen from 6 to 8. A live stream, 590 The Fan, 6 to 7 every Friday night. 2 shows every week, and I love this special edition, man. I'm having a
right.
great time, and I know we all are with you. Evan.
Yeah, I'm having a really good time. So thank you guys.
That's great. Micah, I know you got a couple more things you want to get to before we jet out of here. So
That's right.
Let's get to it.
Well, first and foremost, let's talk about UFC 285, the most recent fight card this past week. I'm going to start out with the guy who kind of contradicts what you were saying earlier about being a full, well-rounded mixed martial artist.
Absolutely.
In Bo Nickel,
Yeah.
my boy, Penn State, I believe 3-time national champion, junior world champion, Hodge Trophy winner. What are your thoughts? We had called it first round submission. He got a submission at 2 minutes and 54 seconds into the fight.
Yeah.
What do you see from this guy? I mean, he's a monster.
I mean, he's dude. It being at the gym that I'm at, very high level wrestling at Kill Cliff FC. Man, wrestling is so dominant.
Yep.
It's just it's the most. I would say, in my opinion, and a lot of MMA fighters' opinions, it's the most crucial. It's at least the best foundation,
Right.
because I mean, it really does kind of give you the ability to dictate where the fight's going to take place.
Mhm.
Not always, not necessarily, because you see, that's it, man. I love fighting so much because it's there's so many variables.
Yep.
There's so much that goes into it. So somebody like Bo Nickel, that's a crazy. It's such an interesting clash of styles against somebody like that's an elite level striker like Israel Adesanya.
Right.
You would almost imagine somebody that doesn't. Israel Adesanya is not a phenomenal. Is not known for his grappling.
Correct.
And Bo Nickel absolutely is. But I don't know. I don't think Bo Nickel would be able to take down Israel Adesanya.
Really? Okay. Clip that.
I don't think he
Clip
would.
that.
I don't.
That's
think he
a
would.
hot take.
I don't-
Okay. Okay. All right, Devin.
Because of the
You just
striking.
lost a little bit.
because of the striking, man. I really don't think that.
You're correct in saying his takedown defense is phenomenal and his distance is phenomenal.
Okay, maybe let me rephrase that then. Because I think if Bo Nickel got in on a shot, it would be a wrap.
Yes.
But I don't think that he would be able to close the distance. I really don't think so. So
Well, you're wrong, but okay.
Fair enough.
Wow. So
I'm
here's
just kidding. I'm
here's-
talking to a professional
but
fighter.
that is exactly what I was gonna say. I said, Micah, he's in the ring, bro.
I know.
You
I
know?
know. It's like,
I'm gonna
I'm
go
a-
with what he's got. To say. I
I'm
mean,
a
I love
couch-
you.
I'm a
anything.
couch warrior,
I,
baby.
I love you.
I'm a
I
Twitter
love you.
warrior.
You're so knowledgeable. I'm going here first.
All right.
Hey,
Well, when
no,
Bo
man.
Nickel takes down Izzy for the championship and he submits him in one round, I'll be here to collect my winnings because that's what I'm gonna take. But I
Look
am
at
with
him.
you.
He's talking the
I'm-
gambit.
I
He's
know, I'm-
changed
I'm
over since you were
I'm
on the last
chirping
time,
now.
Evan. He's-
I'm
he's-
chirping.
That's all right.
This
He's
is the
a
He
fight
gambling
couldn't
man,
wait
baby.
to get to the machine to punch his ticket, man. I'm sorry for the future Mrs. Michael Mills.
Creating
I
creating a
created a
monster.
monster.
That's right.
Nah,
He's
it's
not.
all
You're not
good.
the first or the last.
No.
Some wives don't like me
Oh
hanging
boy.
around.
Oh boy. Well, I do think you raise a really good point, and it'll be interesting. I mean, again, it
Oh,
goes
dude,
back
it
to
would
why we're so obsessed with the fight game
100%.
because
Yeah.
it's two insanely different styles. Now,
Yep.
me being very biased towards wrestlers, of course, I'm going to say he could take him down, but Izzy's had a good track record against some significant grapplers, wrestlers that haven't been able to take him down.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I really think, man, and it's real easy to think, yeah, that makes sense. Like he should be able to cover the distance, get a hold of a leg, and if he grabs a leg, there's no way you can't prepare for that level of
a
wrestling.
lifetime of
You
being on the
can't.
mat.
You
No.
can't. But I should rephrase that. You can't expect or prepare to out wrestle that level of
Right.
wrestling.
Right.
You have to approach it in a different way.
Right.
But I think Izzy would do exactly that. And like it's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm gonna get in there and take him down. When you get face to face and you get in that cage and you realize, oh my gosh, this dude's footwork is so much better than I thought,
Yeah.
or I'm getting blasted every single time I even step in. It's completely different.
Absolutely.
Or
So
if you feel
wait,
the
so
power.
do you have a plan B, plan C?
Yeah, I mean, you always need, you always have to, you pretty much have or the way I like to think about it is, just a plan A, a plan B, a plan C.
Okay.
Of just like, this is what I want to happen. If that doesn't work, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Last case scenario, this is what's going
Well,
to happen.
that's the Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the face.
Yeah,
you
my
know?
point is like the plan could go out the window
And it
within
usually
10
does.
seconds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
For me, I'm much more, the methods are many and the concepts are few. And I think that there's a million different ways that things can play out
Yeah.
in the fight. But if you get more to approaching in conceptual ideas instead of methods of like, okay, I'm going to do exactly this right there,
Right.
and then you might not ever encounter that exact situation in the fight.
Right.
But just in concepts of like, I'm gonna try to pressure, get him to the outside of the cage. Once he's there, then I use these set of strikes to open up the takedown. As opposed to saying I'm gonna double jab right hand, move in, slip outside, get him to step off this way, grab the single leg. When he defends this way, I'm
Right.
clubbing the head. It's way too specific.
Easy to overthink,
Yep.
or it's easy to think that you can do something until you step into the cage with someone like Adesanya,
Yep.
who gives you such a different look than you're
And
ever
just in
going to
general,
get anywhere
and just
else.
in general,
Yeah.
going back to what we were saying with the ABC,
Yeah.
having different game plans, or the game plan going out the window.
Right.
I think it's easier to game plan in concepts than it is in specifics.
For sure.
So it's a lot of the way we train, anyways. It's
Yeah.
just like it's much more. The concepts are so much more important to understand than individual techniques.
I know you got one more. I got one. How much time is spent watching previous fights of your next opponent?
I think it depends. I think that really depends a lot on the fighter. I personally really enjoy watching tape and breaking down and really trying to understand as much as I can and as in depth as I can. But some fighters, like Cowboy Cerrone, is notorious for he's like, I've never watched any of my opponents fight because
Yeah.
he's like, I will let my coaches do it. And and
Oh, wow.
one of my best friends is actually that way. He's a
Yeah.
good fighter and he doesn't. Shout out Anthony Casano, Phil Wood.
Shout out.
I didn't,
No
I
free
didn't, I
shout
didn't
outs.
hear you. I didn't
I
hear
said
it.
shout out Anthony Casano.
Oh, okay,
No.
okay.
Call him Lil Wood. That's his nickname. He doesn't like watching his opponents either.
Right.
So to each is their own. And
Just
I
depends.
personally really
You like
enjoy
film.
breaking down film
Yeah.
and trying to understand as much as I can, especially on.
So moving up the card real quick, we go next to the Matus Gamrot versus Jalen Turner.
Oh my!
We had taken
gosh.
that prediction in a classic Gamrot fashion, just kind of a grind, brutal grappling on top. He's solid, I think, just about everywhere. Went to decision. We had called that one as well. The next one was Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Jeff Neal.
Oh my goodness.
We took Shavkat by KO. He won by submission he won by submission early into the third round. So missed on that. And then I think
Was
everybody
it
in the
early
world.
in the third? I don't think it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Late in the third. 4:17. So I'm sorry.
I believe. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think. I might
very
be thinking-
late, very
Yeah.
late
'cause
over Jeff
Neal
Neal.
started tagging him up in the
Correct.
third round.
Correct.
And then, but dude, Shavkat. Woo.
Anyone with the name
He's-
Shavkat, and I've said this a million times,
What is it?
Ekmanov or Nurmagomedov or
He's
Makachev.
incredible.
Like when these guys, and I think he's a Dagestani too, is he not? Or
I don't quite
something
remember.
like
It's something different.
Kyrgyzstan or something.
Thing.
Again, when they have the Akhmatov or whatever, it's something like that.
But anyways, you know what it really is. I think the difference in what you're saying with these Dagestanis
Russian guys.
is the gym that I'm at. We have it's just such a great melting pot of like so many different ethnicities and cultural backgrounds and just
Stylistic backgrounds.
styles. It's amazing. So you get a plethora of all kinds of different training partners, but a lot of these guys getting to talk to them, that's all they do there.
Yeah.
They don't play other sport. Like when you're a kid, you don't play baseball or basketball or hockey. You
Yeah.
do combat sports.
Yep.
So when you grow up, you're doing this from such a young age. So and especially like prepubescent time era. Of like
Oh,
your
my
body
goodness.
adapting, of
Yes.
like growing up knowing this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
Like I think that is tremendously important.
Yeah. Well, you'll see these YouTube videos of training camps in Russia or wherever of kids that are 5 to 10 years old that are doing techniques that you see in high school here in
Yeah.
America
No, 100%.
at like the highest level.
Yep.
And it just shows that again they grow up on the mat. They grow up. There's a difference between we have combat sports here in America, but they have combat culture.
Yeah.
And all these kids
That's a good way
grow
to
up
put it.
and they want to be the next Khabib. They want to be
Yep.
the next Islam versus we have, you might want to be the next LeBron or you might want to be the next MLB player, golfer, tennis player. And for them, it's just like that is what they want to pursue from the beginning. And they don't indulge in distractions. You don't see them out at the clubs and everything else. I think a lot of that stems from their religious beliefs and
I
it
think
just
that's an enormous factor.
it is the
I really do.
discipline that goes into it. I mean, they're clean, everything. Their lives are committed. There's no distractions. They're very tunnel vision, and they have one focus, and that is to be the best fighter on the planet. And that's why some of these guys separate themselves from the
I
pack.
completely agree. Couldn't agree more.
Next up, we had the crazy upset between Shevchenko versus Grasso. I don't think anybody saw that coming. We brought it up earlier. Spinning back kick that she missed got caught by Grasso. So hats off to her beating one of the best female fighters in history. And then, of course, John Jones with the early first round submission.
Yeah.
I had taken
I had a lot of people that I
That's
talked
right.
to that bet the other
goat.
side.
that bet.
That bet the against Jones that loved the 2-1 price
Oh,
that you got.
I
Yeah.
hated that.
I know you did.
That's a
And you talked me off of it.
good.
You did.
Cyril Gahn is
I couldn't imagine ever betting against
no
Jones,
Cyril.
honestly.
Gahn,
But
he's,
think about from a gambler's perspective, right? You're getting 2-1 on the opponent. He's been off 3 years,
yeah, no,
right?
for sure.
and
for
he's
sure.
stepping up in weight.
Yeah.
Now, somebody from the outside, those are
If you
two
didn't know who
big-
John Jones was, for sure, that's
my point.
appealing.
But even if you
But-
do, from a gambling standpoint, you're talking about two major flags when it comes to gambling. Time off.
oh, he's got more flags than that. But yeah,
I understand, but I'm just saying. We're not going to talk
Sorry.
about
He's
that.
the
I'm
best fighter in the
sorry.
world, not necessarily
Yeah,
the most outstanding
but-
citizen.
But you've got 3 years off,
Yep.
right? And you've got going up in weight. And we've talked just from what we talked about last time for your first UFC fight. I'm just saying from a gambler, and you're going to give me 2-1 on the opponent, right? So
Was it really only?
Yeah.
I could see. how it
my
would've been
point
much
being is
more.
that the
Sure.
value from a gambling side was not to bet Jones. Okay,
The value,
value,
for sure. Yeah.
but obviously, what was first round, right? It was over in like
It was
3 minutes.
well, the
absolute
value was
domination.
submission or
Right,
by
right,
KO,
or
which-
that way,
yes,
but
yes.
not the minus. Not the
Oh yeah,
minus
yeah, just yeah,
280
money line,
or
yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah, that's not the value. The value is always trying to identify either the style of finish or what round.
Correct.
I mean, I think that's
what I'm
usually-
learning through you.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm learning that as well because I'm kind of taking the things that go right. Like on this past card, we had a couple that hit, then we had a couple that were really, really close. One that was interesting earlier in the card was, I believe it was Brunson versus Duplessis.
Yeah.
Threw in the towel. Derek Brunson's corner. I don't know if you knew this. Threw in the
Yeah.
towel, and he was getting beat up. But we had Duplessis by decision. He throws in the towel with 1 second left on the clock in the second round. fight was over, but it's just very rare that you see a corner throw in the towel.
Yeah, I was kind of happy for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek actually trains with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so does Duplessis actually.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
it kind of weird. Actually, you know what's really crazy? That's not the only fight we had on the card. On this same card, where two teammates fought each other.
What was the other one?
Esteban Rivas and Loic. I don't remember how to say Loic's last name.
Okay.
Something very Russian.
Okay.
They were the very first fight on the early
On
prelim.
the early prelim.
Amazing fight. But in that situation, so Derek Brunson's situation, Derek trains with us, and then Dricus actually lives in South Africa, so he trains there. But when he comes to the States,
Then
he
he'll
trains
train
with
it.
us.
Okay.
So he wasn't really. But anyways, they're both considered out of our gym a lot of times. So I don't think any of our coaches were there to corner them because they didn't want to coach against the other person.
Conflict of.
So they had their own corners. So I think Derek's corner was not necessarily our coaches, but they threw in the towel. I personally, I freaking love Derek Brunson. He's
Yeah.
just an amazing person.
Been around. I mean,
and dude, just a decorated fighter.
Yep.
And he always impresses me. He was tagging Dricus up in that
Yeah,
first round, man.
no
He was
doubt.
giving him some trouble. But just for, man, don't get me wrong. I love this stuff, and there's something about just being a warrior of just fighting through any amount of adversity. But at the end of the day, our health, is important.
Yeah.
And I really think that so many of us build a mindset that's just so unwilling to give up that it is very, or a lot of times we're too tough for our own good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's important to have people that care for you and
have a
want-
corner that's willing to protect you
Yeah.
from yourself sometimes.
Exactly, because he was, in my opinion, it was.
You
it
could
was
see.
over.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anything closing you want to talk about for about a minute or two?
only last thing we're gonna bring up is the upcoming Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
We have, and for those of you who don't know, it is a reality TV show that started. Gosh, I think they're on their 30th season or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But it started
around
back
for
in
a
the
minute.
day, and I think it was one of the things that really saved the UFC by getting it
Really
more
was,
in the
yeah.
mainstream, and that legendary fight between Stephen Bonner and Forrest
Griffin,
Griffin.
baby. Yeah.
But the headline coaches are our boy Michael Chandler, St. Louis guy, against
Yeah.
the notorious Conor McGregor. It's going to be
Wow.
an absolute, and I have been
That's
calling
exciting.
for this fight for a decade now. Really since Chandler got into Bellator and started
When is
having
this?
all of his success. The fight, I don't know if they've scheduled the fight
I
yet.
want to say
So they're
it's
gonna follow
August,
him all the way
but
through?
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
They're
so-
gonna follow him all the way through.
Correct. So
Wow,
the
that's
show
great.
premieres on ESPN Plus at the end of May, and so the show will go on throughout the couple of weeks, which is a tournament format where then at the end the two best will fight each other, and then McGregor and Chandler will fight each other,
That
which is
sounds
going to be a fantastic fight.
Yeah, it's gonna
Must
be
see
insane.
TV.
Evan, before we go, I got one question.
Let's hear it.
This is it. I want to know how many In-N-Out burgers you got for 50K.
Well, we did the math. No, I'm just playing. No, that was just a funny Instagram reel.
It was. I love
I,
In-N-Out. I used to live out west for
love
20
In-N-Out.
years, and I miss
Really?
In-N-Out.
Yeah, I love In-N-Out, man.
Yeah.
That was actually the first place I moved was California. I was 19, my first time moving away from home, and moved out to California, and I ended up working at In-N-Out Burger for a year.
Right
Oh,
on.
really?
And so I
Ugh.
ate so many In-N-Out burgers.
Ugh.
It was way before I cared at all about my diet, so I was eating 4 burgers a day almost. I would eat 2 at lunch, and then I would come back at night after I got done training and lifting, and eat 2 more. So, man, shout out In-N-Out.
Yeah.
Sponsor your boy.
I had to get that one in. It was
Yeah,
great.
that's right.
I'm thinking like 20 years ago, I'm like, yeah, let's go to In-N-Out and spend 50 grand. And then the older me is like, come
Oh,
on,
no.
Evan. Come
No,
on,
no,
Evan.
no.
There's
It
so
was
much better we can do.
absolute joke.
I know.
Absolute
Of
joke.
course, I know that. Evan, thank you
I
so
had
much.
2 burgers.
Well, that's enough. Evan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Evan
you,
Elder.
guys.
Yeah, this is so much fun. I hope next time you're in town, you join
Absolutely,
us again.
man. I'd love to.
Right? Micah Mills.
Thank
you
you.
once again. I love your
Money Micah?
expertise. He's so knowledgeable. It's great.
I appreciate you guys.
Clemson John, all the crew, and the Irish Gypsy, man. We're
go.
here.
Alright.
Come check
Ready to
this
eat.
place out
Thank
in
you for
O'Fallon.
having us.
Our food's ready.
Yes,
We're going to get
sir.
out of here. Thursday night, John and I will be at DraftKings at Casino Queen live, 6 o'clock. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll be back.